do tell us, if you watched the film, to that whether you support an intimate scene, a sex scene like that, where there is the reference to a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Nitish.
Well, you must understand everything from the perspective. What is the perspective? If it's an intimate scene, okay, love is one of the strongest emotions of all beings,
True.
whether they're human beings or animals, right? But in that intimacy, that kind of an intimate scene, that moment, if the scientist is thinking of the Gita's teaching, and especially when Krishna says that I am Kalosmi Loka Kshayakrit Pravruddho. I am the eternal time which is going to kill everything, which is going to engulf everything. So I am the destroyer. That's the word he is used constantly in the film. I am the destroyer. I am the destroyer. In those most important, intense, intimate moments of love and passions, if he's thinking of I am the destroyer,
Yes.
that means he is expressing his guilt. Please understand, he is expressing his guilt. He's so consumed by the remorseful feeling that whether I did my duty towards mankind. Was
Of
this my
creating the
duty
atom
towards
bomb that
mankind?
killed so many people, specifically in
Yes,
in
yes.
Japan.
By creating the atom bomb, you see, there have been the wars have been there before the
Yes.
First World War, even the Second World War was being fought all over the place, all over Europe, everything. But to see two cities completely wiped out with that atom bomb, it's a devastating feeling. It's a feeling of it must have shaken him up, and especially a scientist who's exposed to the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Gita is nothing but telling you the duty in its right perspective. What was told to Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was that perspective of the war. As a warrior, as a Kshatriya, when you enter into the war, you don't show your back and run away. That's not your duty. Okay? And that is why immediate next shloka, which is 11.33, says, Tasmat uttishta, yasho labhasva. So get up. So you have to understand the perspective. So his perspective, Oppenheimer's, was that I did my duty. I thought this was my duty, but was it my duty to kill the mankind? And I have seen one of his interviews before, when he spoke about that moment and he was in tears. That itself shows that the feeling of guilt was so intense and strong inside him that probably he saw the future, what we are seeing today. All sorts of explosive bombs are being used to wipe out our human race. And who's doing it?
So do you
We are
think
doing
that
it
could be a
ourselves.
context that he knew about Bhagavad Gita in reality because of
Yes,
his interviews,
yes,
that was used as a
yes.
part creatively in the film?
Yes,
Now, yes,
but let me complete. Let me
sure,
complete.
go ahead.
How was it used? He's again and again saying, "I'm the destroyer. I'm the destroyer." It's his remorse. He's not. He's not. Forget what he's doing. When a scientist, often we actors, we are thinking of something very difficult and very intense. We are consumed by that invention, that discovery, whatever. But after that thing has happened, he's consumed by that guilt so much that he's not thinking of his romance, he's not thinking of his love, he's not thinking of his intimacy. He's only thinking of his guilt. I am the destroyer.
So
I am the
Nitish,
destroyer.
because we
You
saw
must
on social
understand
media,
this.
my added question to that is on social media, because these days people are quick to react whether or not they've watched the film, and they believe that in films there's been in some sort of sequence that Hinduism is often unnecessarily criticized or mentioned in a wrong way, that
No.
this time as well it is Hinduism being portrayed while there is a sex scene in the film. Because you've watched the film,
No.
what would you want to say to some of them who've
No,
literally
no, 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 no.
decided to
Let's
go ahead and file complaint against it?
No, 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 no. I would advise restraint and see this perspective. It is in the most remorseful moment of his life. Oppenheimer is thinking about the power of the Gita. It is the Gita which told him that probably this was not my duty. Probably wiping out mankind with this invention, this is not my duty. That is the power of the Gita. The Gita is nothing but perspective. And I must say, this is the first time probably. See, you have to understand, Christopher Nolan is not a Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Correct, correct, of course.
Christopher Nolan is not a person who's got an axe to grind against Hinduism. Okay, There are people who've been doing it in the past,
Exactly.
okay, in this country and outside this country. Christopher Nolan is a very serious filmmaker. So if he's done it, he's used that one word, one line, I am the destroyer. I am the destroyer, because that is his guilt of Oppenheimer. And that is the power of the Gita. For the first time, I am saying on international forum, international cinema, Christopher Nolan has used that word very correctly to show the guilt and remorse of this father of atom bomb. We must look at it that
Very
way.
interesting. And not just the fans, Nitish, I'm also reminded of a statement made by the Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur, and he has said they will not accept if there is any insult to Hinduism, they will take action against it. What do you say to the government? Do you think the government also should show some restraint for now, depending on the context of the scene there?
The same thing which I said so far. Government should also show restraint. Government, the honorable minister should himself see the film and see in what context Nolan has used this line, I am the destroyer.
Would you want
the
to?
act,
Yes.
the act that he was doing at that moment is not important. The thought which was consuming his mind space and his emotional space is most important, because that is the guilt and remorse that he felt, and the aftermath of that guilt and remorse is what we are seeing today. And I feel it is time that the Hindu society and government per se, government of India today, which is led by honorable Prime Minister, who is himself a Vedanti,
Yes.
who himself has learned Vedanta, he must tell his government to show restraint. And I'm going to go to Delhi tomorrow morning. I'll be in Delhi. I will be having. I'll try and meet Mr. Thakur myself
Okay.
and urge upon him to do that. The one thing I want to say, we've been time and again for decades we've been hearing this about nuclear disarmament. Has nuclear disarmament really happened? Every country, every nation is only increasing their defense budgets, and they are selling more and more jets and bombs and missiles. So much so that even we had to, under Atmanirbhar Bharat, we were forced in defense, though offense has never been Bharat's policy. But in defense, we have to protect ourselves. So
Yes.
we have to also protect ourselves through missile creation and manufacturing program. But this is forced upon us. So nuclear disarmament has not been achieved. This goal is not achieved. I urge a Prime Minister, when he's done with his duty for India, probably he should consider taking up the post of United Nations Secretary General and actually pursue this goal of nuclear disarmament in the world.